Thanks for having me here. So I want to talk today about the effects of imagining a positive future. And if we look at like pop psychology and the self-help industry, for instance, they have a lot to tell us about what happens when you imagine something positive in the future. So this book's author, for instance, when he was 90 years old, was still giving 150 speaking engagements a year. And one reporter asked him, how do you cope with this challenging schedule? And he said, oh, I live in misery, but I get through it with affirmations, with imaging, with positive thinking. So that was the basic message of his book. By imagining the positive, you can do anything. This is another book with a similar premise. This book, interestingly, was published in 1937, but still crops up periodically on Business Week's business bestseller list. And it has a similar message. I think Napoleon Hill's other book is called something like The Keys to Positive Thinking. So again, with positive imagery, you can be successful in business, you can do whatever you want. And then you might be familiar with a book called The Secret that was just published in 2006, but has already sold something like 20 million copies and translated into 46 different languages worldwide. And the secret that the book's title refers to is what's called the law of attraction, or the idea that desirable outcomes like health, wealth, and happiness can be attracted just by imagining them as part of your life. And just in case you're not convinced that these are ideas that really have an impact, you can go to the website of The Secret and you can read testimonials from literally thousands of different people who have put these ideas into practice in their lives. And I picked out one from a guy who had found a car that he wanted to buy and could afford, but it was already promised to somebody else, unfortunately. So he said, I left the dealership, I went home, I put up pictures of this car on the wall. I spent some time every day imagining myself in the driver's seat driving this car, and after a week, the dealership called and said, if you still want it, you can have it. So he concluded by saying, this secret really works. It's hard sometimes to remain positive and hold on to the visuals, especially when you're faced with anything contradictory. But push through it, believe with all your heart, and it's guaranteed you'll get it or something better. So this is a message similar to what a lot of people who are using these ideas are saying. And although there's a lot kind of mixed up in here, what I want to basically show you is studies that test this premise, that by visualizing something you want, you'll be more likely to get it. And if you read the abstract of my talk, this is not really coming as a spoiler, but the studies that I'll present will show you that, unfortunately, positive thinking in some forms doesn't always guarantee success and sometimes makes it less likely rather than more likely that you get the thing that you want. So the specific form of thinking that I'm going to focus on in this talk is what we refer to as fantasies, which are similar to what other authors have called mental simulations or daydreams. So these free thoughts and images that occur in the mind's eye and that are not constrained by what's realistically likely or unlikely to happen, although they do tend to follow the laws of the physical world. So Shelley Taylor, in her work on mental simulations, points out that even a really engaging mental simulation about acquiring great wealth would generally begin by imagining winning the lottery or getting an unexpected inheritance, rather than a magic cloud opening up in the front yard and dumping out a pile of money. Now, what's important about these fantasies is that they're distinct from judgment-based ways of thinking like beliefs, attitudes, or values. And we can distinguish them empirically in the way that they're measured or manipulated, as I'll show you in the details of the studies. We can also distinguish them conceptually just by recognizing that no matter how good or bad, important or unimportant, likely or unlikely something is, we can still generate fantasies and mental simulations that depict it playing out in a variety of different ways. And the specific way that I focused on in this research is what we call positive fantasies, or imagining things playing out in basically an idealized best-case scenario way. So you can think about them as being akin to imagining the future through rose-colored glasses. So you smoothly and easily approach the things that you want, you definitely enjoy them, there's no doubt, there's no obstacles, no negative aspects. The questions that we focused on is when people do this, when you generate positive fantasies, what are the effects? So specifically, what are the effects on action and why, and what are the effects on decisions? For action, we're especially interested in when people fantasize positively about a desired future, about something that they want to happen, and you give them the choice to act toward realizing it, will they? And some research suggests that the answer is yes. So you might be familiar with these studies by Cialdini and colleagues, for instance, that were around the time that cable television was just becoming available. And they went door to door and found that people who were asked to imagine themselves using and enjoying cable TV were subsequently more